Hey guys, Raider here. We are doing a brief interruption to this. First, I want to say drop a sub if you like this. I'll be doing more interview content and general like subject content in the lore. I just want to interrupt and say that initial plan was to have art on everything talked about in the podcast episodes, but the main issue with that is I suck at doing them. So, at the moment, we're going to have kind of one title card esque looking thing that will run for the entire podcast at the initial release of everything, and I'll kind of be going over what was discussed in the podcast or like kind of main points. So for this one, I've just kind of done one of the explorer's hands, starting to create a planet, basically. That's what it's depicting. That's what's going to be running the entire episode for this first one. The next episode, I already kind of know what I'm talking about. And given time constraints and schedule issues, stuff like this, I will probably be doing some in a solo setting and some in a group interview setting and some with other people, that kind of thing. So audio quality might kind of vary because I don't have the professional grade setup that my friend that helped me do this recording has. So sorry about that. But that's what I'm doing with the art for now, and then either I'll hire somebody or get better at the art in a way that I think is less bad, to have more of the topics shown. So that's kind of the plan. It's a little different than what I initially thought, but I figured I'd just let you know. Drop a sub, helps out, shows me that you guys actually have an interest. I don't know how I'm going to market this, so we'll see. But yeah, I'll shut up now and let the podcast play.
So you're working on a game. It's more of a franchise called. Right now, it's called Raiders of Neoon.
Yes.
And do you want to talk about what Neoon is and kind of like what the grand overarching scheme of this whole game is, or this whole franchise?
Neoon is basically, it's the name of one of the planets as well as the system that planet is in. And in like the very first game, you would start basically on the way to that planet. So it's basically the name of the system and like the main planet, the melting pot that a lot of species are getting to gather on and form communities and whatnot.
Okay. And so what's going on Neoon? What's the inciting incident?
Um, there's like several, but the main divide that's happening on the planet is between these people. Well, they're technically shamans. It's the race, not like the class they've picked. But they were there originally, and they're trying to get off the original island that they're on. And when I say island, it's like there's like two Pangeas on there. They're not tiny. And they want to go to the mainland, but the mainland doesn't necessarily understand them enough to be like, yeah, sure. So there's like mostly like I don't want to say political tension between like figuring each other out, but there's some amount of understanding that needs to happen. And the races that are headed there, most of them are there on behalf of their like species through, it's not really a government system, but like a collection of we're gonna support each other type vibe.
So it's very open-ended, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that probably leads to why there's such a rich lore to it, because basically any direction you want to head, there's going to be something intentionally designed for you to discover,
Yeah.
any path you want to take. So tell me about Neoon. I know that we already talked about Neoon before, but the recording didn't work.
Yeah, not take two.
Yeah,
uh
yeah. So yeah,
yeah,
tell me about
basically
Neoon itself.
the the planet is not a finished product in the sense that like it's literally physically not finished.
And do you want to explain why?
Yeah, so and I can explain part of this after as well. But basically initially a explorer from a different dimension showed up, and a bunch of them actually, and one of them got eaten by a void beast, which I'll explain a little bit later. Um, and so they tried to make shells to basically hide in. The explorers did. That's the planets.
Oh,
So
interesting.
they basically merge with the planet to hide away from the void beast, because once the void beast eats something, they eat it until there's nothing more of that type to eat.
Mm.
So it merged with the planet, started making the planet, and then got unceremoniously killed by a meteor, basically. So it only got like halfway through making land height and sea level and anything that you would expect on kind of a planet with,
Yeah, what does that mean
life.
for Neoon? What is it like?
Uh, 70% of the planet exists up on what everyone calls spires, which is basically where the land level is supposed to be. And then you have the lowlands, which traditionally would have been like all water, but
Hmm.
there's not all water where there's supposed to be water. So they are Mariana Trench deep compared to where the height of like the normal areas, the spires are. There are some oceans like up where the spires are, like that did get finished, but the lowlands are also supposed to be all ocean, but it
Are there
never got
any like
ocean.
just flat out holes in the earth on this planet? No.
Um, there's a couple that are in like the spires that just go down to somewhere that
Okay.
people don't really like mess with because they don't know why they're there and they don't want to go down
Gators.
only to find out that it's just congratulations, you've been splatted.
Right.
But there's a couple just straight up like holes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the planet speculates often that it's like meteor strikes.
Because they don't know that the planet is
No,
unfinished.
no. People have kind of guessed that the water or the ocean may have dried at some point, or that a disaster happened and the water is gone, but they don't actually know that it wasn't there in the first place.
What kind of climate? Like what kind of flora and fauna are we talking about?
Lowlands is mostly desert, some tundra. Um, gets kind of strange just given the unfinished nature. So, like in the lowlands, you could walk. I don't know. Let's say you're in like a thing that's supposed to be like a lake, like that kind of size, not
Hmm.
super huge, but not tiny either. You could walk from one end to the other and go through desert into tundra into like ice, and that's just because the amount of shade that those areas can get from the sun.
Wow.
And so they'll like freeze over. The highlands are relatively normal. You've got forests, grasslands, you've got some weird acid forest areas that are like mushrooms and shit that
Okay.
are not good to eat or be near ever. Or you'll have like more of a rocky sort of all looking like gravel areas. But for the most part, it's relatively like taking a walk in like Yellowstone or something. It's pretty,
Picturesque,
yeah.
scenic, very verdant. Um, so how large is the planet?
About 3 times the size of Jupiter.
Dang. Wow.
It's pretty significantly big, yeah.
Wow. And then like are most of the intelligent races from other planets that have come here as kind of like a central point for a lot of racial gathering, or are there a lot of native species too?
There's only one native species there, which is shamans. Basically, it's a race, not the class.
Okay.
um, but they were made by the entity trying to like hide in the planet, basically. So the whole goal was to have them kind of help protect the planet and thus protecting the
The entity.
being within.
But
Um,
they know. They're like the only ones who know that the entity is dead.
well, it's not dead at the moment anymore. It was dead for like a week. They did this stupid thing of trying to resurrect it, and that drove the thing entirely insane and caused a bunch of problems on their
Interesting.
mainland. So there's primarily like two big islands that are like Pangea sized floating around.
Okay.
One is where the shamans are, and the other one is where like everybody else pretty much is. And then
Mhm.
there's like smaller islands that, I mean, they have like trees on them and stuff that aren't really populated yet. Um, but so yeah, the shamans tried to resurrect the entity, which did not go well because they can't understand like half the physiology or
Mhm.
anything. They also didn't ask it if it was like fine with coming back, which is like a core tenet of necromancy. So instead of it, knowing it's gonna come back, it basically just got vacuum cleaner yanked.
Which they would have had to ask it before it died.
Yes,
Yeah.
which they couldn't have done anyways. So,
Mm-hmm. It's catch.
um, yeah. So it's now like insane. Um, and the dimension, the universe, all that where this takes place initially didn't have like mana or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But the great dimensional shift happened when it was being made, which is like a whole nother can of worms to go down. But
Mm-hmm.
now there's mana, right? The being in the core, or what it is now,
Yeah.
is connected to the shamans because it made the shamans.
Yeah.
So they started to have a lot of the practitioners who, use their gift for building or helping plants grow, that kind of thing, turning into absolute insane, stark raving mad, walk into a place laughing and killing everybody kind of vibe.
Okay.
So the shamans obviously know that is like not a great thing to have in your town or elsewhere.
Yeah.
So they started experimenting with a way to still have mana and the power that they get without going absolutely bonkers. And so that got into like their tradition of tattooing,
So,
basically.
so in your world, you've given me a lot of things to follow up on.
Yeah.
In your world, the mana is kind of like a gift or connection that people have with an entity that is like they would call it a god, but it's actually a trans-dimensional like
Being, yeah,
super
yeah.
being.
The mana situation is weird. So the shamans have it because they're connected to the resurrected entity. But the entity died before the dimensional shift,
Mm-hmm.
um, which again kind of happened towards the beginning of everything. Um, and the shamans started to be there pre-shift. So when everything, like the entire dimension, basically shifted up one.
Mm-hmm.
So it was dimension 3. Now dimension 3 doesn't exist anymore. Everything's in dimension 4. Everything above that, which is like 999 dimensions, everything above that got shifted up one. The dimension that kind of caused the whole problem just got alt F forward basically. So
Just
when
that's dimension 3. It just got destroyed for some reason.
dimension 3 got shoved into 4 as a
Oh,
sub dimension.
okay. So 2 got destroyed and it kind of pushed.
576 died because the explorer showed up in dimension 3, saw the void beasts because they were the only thing that was there. I mean, he was really confused because he's been all over the place and
Mm-hmm.
he's never seen these things before. He tried to bring stuff from his dimension here, which caused an entire shift because that's two incompatible things trying to be in one space.
Interesting. And so who's this explorer?
Um, he's just an explorer from 576. He doesn't even really have a name. They're more of like a hive identity, basically.
Okay.
But he explores everything from Dimension 1, which no one's come back from that's gone there,
Okay.
to Dimension 800, 312. It's like all over the place. He catalogs various things. The entire species that was there before he Alta-4'd them, was all about gathering knowledge and trying to figure out how to branch to parallels, basically. That was their entire pursuit. But if they find anything strange, they want to study it to find
Right.
out what the heck it is.
Okay. And so we've mentioned void beasts several times. Do you want to
Yeah.
explain what that is?
So the void beasts are basically gargantuan eater of planets, worlds, solar systems, universes, or even dimensions when they get big enough.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So they're not supposed to be in our dimension cluster.
Has any dimension been eaten?
Like several clusters would be
Oh,
needed.
wow.
So a cluster is just like 1 to 999. And usually they're parallel to us, but that doesn't mean that they're like, if you go to the parallel for dimension 4, you're going to go there, but you could have existence ruled by crabs. It wouldn't necessarily be the same thing. It's just the makeup and vibrational existence is the same. It's the only thing that's the same.
Okay. And so these void beasts, some of them are small enough that they're just eating planets and galaxies. Some of
Yeah.
them are big enough that planets and galaxies look like the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Planets and solar systems. Some are big enough to eat galaxies. Some are even big enough to eat entire dimensions.
Yeah.
What causes them to be those different sizes?
Length of time they've been around, basically. So they eat and grow. Their primary function is fighting to eat, get bigger, and then eat. And that's it. That's all they do. So a lot of the older ones have been around for millennia plus, and they're eating dimensions at that point because, I mean, they're not going to bide their time to eat a person.
What dimension are they from?
The universe doesn't know that. That is like a mystery.
Not even the Explorer?
The Explorer has no idea. He's never encountered them before. He's absolutely clueless. He's never seen them. He doesn't know why they're here.
So
they're
he went
anywhere else.
He went into that dimension where like, it was just the void beasts, and he didn't actually see void beasts. So he started bringing stuff into that dimension, not realizing that there were void beasts there.
He got to the dimension.
Mm-hmm.
He saw that it was completely blank. Like everything is just black. There's no stars, no suns, no dust, no gas, no anything.
Yeah.
And that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
So he explored for, I don't know, maybe like 10,000 years, like 10,112. And he saw the void beasts, and he realized that they're like the only thing in the dimension that exists.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted to study them, but he wanted to do it from a safe distance because he didn't want, galaxy size eating worms to eat him. So he tried to bring stuff there.
But then what dimension was that one?
That is dimension 3.
That's dimension 3. What dimension does Neoon exist in?
It initially started in dimension 3, but once more stuff from 576 showed up in the dimension, because he was still bringing things there.
It got pushed to 4?
Dimension 3 became a subdimension of 4 and shoved all the dimensions forward.
Okay.
So 576 died as a result of that.
So the dimension that has Neoon is also the dimension that has basically all the void beasts.
Yes.
But Neoon isn't natural to that dimension.
No, Neoon was supposed to be dimension 3. And that was like a byproduct of partially bringing stuff from 576. But when the dimensional shift happened, the third dimension, which is, again, was primarily void beasts, became a subdimension of 4, which is where a lot of like the planets and solar systems and realistic stuff happened.
So if the Explorer's home dimension is kaput,
yeah,
the Explorers are not the same thing as the planet beings, right?
They are.
They are the same thing.
They're the exact same thing. So more of them came over during pre-dimensional shift. They came over to help observe and kind of contain some of the beasts that were there.
Okay, cool. And then these beasts, are they all kind of like worms, like you're saying?
They're in the dimension cluster that everything takes place in. they're all one-ofs, basically. So one would be a worm, one could be a bat, one could look like a cockroach, one could be jellyfish, one could just be an amorphous shape.
Okay.
But they're all one-ofs. So when one dies, that's the end of that species that is here.
Okay. And so where they're initially from, which was like the original three, um, they there was more of them, and there were a lot more that were the same, and they would like eat each other. Is that right?
Prior to Dimension 3, where they were before arriving here, yes. Dimension 3, they're all one-ofs already.
Okay. So I'm just trying to clarify, what is the dimension that the explorer went to and discovered, like the home dimension of these creatures?
He didn't discover the home. He just discovered that they were
That,
in 3.
that they were in three.
And he's never
Oh,
seen them because the dimension was basically in Dimension 3, there's supposed to be stuff. It all got
so
eaten.
so they can. I mean, I guess that makes sense because they can eat dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
They can travel between dimensions just as easily as the explorer can.
I'll just say they were brought here. They didn't really know why. Like the Void Beast, when they eat something, they gain like the intelligence of it.
Oh, okay.
So pretty intelligent. Like they've eaten dimensions and galaxies. Like they know shit. But they were brought here not by themselves, basically.
And that's like a mystery to be found that you don't want
Yeah,
to
like
spoil.
how they got here.
Okay.
And so they are equally as kind of confused about how they got here, but they ate everything that was in 3 prior to the explorer showing up,
Mm-hmm.
which is why it warranted so many other explorers and scientists to arrive in 3 and bring more stuff over to help them study these things.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm following you. So, getting back to how they're all one-offs.
Yeah.
Um, I believe that you had said before in a separate recording that they did eat each other,
Yes.
and that they kind of they changed form based upon the things that they would eat. Like they would kind of evolve,
Yeah.
but not like in the Darwinian sense, but more like in the Pokemon sense, where it's like a single entity goes through multiple evolutions throughout the course of its life.
Yes. Yes. Most of the younger ones change their shape like pretty often, and then they'll eventually kind of figure out like, okay, I'm getting more food as a bat, for example.
Mhm.
So then the rest of their evolution will keep the wings, but the
Mm,
bat might slightly change over the course of thousands and thousands of years.
okay.
So the larger ones, once they get to a certain size, they kind of like more gain intelligence over genetic changes.
Okay.
So like the bigger ones have pretty much been the same for the last like billion plus years.
And
But
and then when they eat a planet, they absorb all the knowledge that everyone on that planet had.
yep, including the, dimensional being that's probably hiding in it.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, they're really smart and kind of scary and
That's very
can't
interesting.
really deal with them.
Well, if unless you have more that you want to talk about with these creatures, I wanted to touch base on the fact that you mentioned when we were talking about mana, the shamans now use tattoos, and we kind of like
Yes.
left that unanswered. What is that? What are you getting at there?
So the shamans initially like couldn't really quite figure out why people were going bonkers and stuff. So they were just like killing their own to like stop it.
Mhm.
Because I mean, they're like you could have like a 3-year-old go just completely end a village and you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
So they needed whatever was causing this to stop. They figured out it was when they were trying to use spells and whatnot.
Hmm.
And the shamans initially were they were led by both the women and the men primarily.
Okay.
But what ended up happening is they had kind of like a big internal brawl over who should be leading because one's group, which both sides were made up of both women and men. It wasn't like men versus guys. But one side wanted to try and use the power to fix the problem. And the other side was like, no, we need to find a way to not use the power and go insane. So it was two different ideas
Sure.
on this.
Mm-hmm.
And the different, there's like a lot of organizational structure shenanigans that you could get into. But one of the groups tried to use the basically the insanity and that power that comes with it to fix this problem
Mm-hmm.
without talking to the other two groups. And they became later what's known as the hags. So they're not like old. It's just the shamans don't want to call them witches because that would imply they're in control of themselves and their power. So
Okay.
they're like stark raving. I'm like the equivalent of 600 nukes just going off in a place.
And it's because essentially the god, for lack of a better word, that they're
Yes.
connected to is corrupt, and therefore they're corrupt.
Yeah, it does. Like it has. Normally, when something gets resurrected, it knows that it's getting resurrected. But this would be like
Yeah.
you being asleep and you getting pulled into a nightmare that's just real, and you have no sense of like what you are anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just you just go insane because your existence was whatever it was when you're dead.
Is there any way of like kind of fixing that issue?
No.
Reconciling? No.
No, it's just fucked. So the the shaman group that wanted to like figure out how to use the power without it screwing everything up, they still tried to do that. They settled on basically making shamanic tattoos that would channel the power, but it would do so in a very specific way where they wouldn't go insane.
Okay, so it's like more focused, more compartmentalized.
Yes. And so like you would get different tattoos for your achievements, your deeds that you did, what you know, do in the village.
Mm-hmm.
And so that became more of like a status thing where it's like you get a tattoo after you go on your first successful hunt.
Mm.
So it became more of that. But the reason they even do it is because if they don't give, like they have clan tattoos,
Mm-hmm.
tribesman tattoos, and if they don't give it to the kid when he's born,
Mm-hmm.
that's a chance for it to go insane immediately. So they do that and they use it as sort of societal achievements to show it, but it's also to make sure that nobody else is going bonkers.
And like they have to go through like these different tasks as kind of like training for themselves so that they can so that they know that they can handle it.
Yeah, partially is training to make sure they have a good grasp on what they already have on them.
Yeah.
And then part of it is to show achievement, but also for whoever's like growing up
Mm-hmm.
can see the elder with all these tattoos and know that they did something for that.
Yeah.
It's not just
So it's
go get inked.
it's not strictly cultural, but it is cultural.
Yes.
And it's not strictly spiritual, but it is spiritual.
Yes.
Now, one thing that I wanted to touch on was the fact that the planet not only has these shaman, but it also has all of these other races from different other planets. Is it also different galaxies, different universes?
So there's a couple people from a separate galaxy,
Mm-hmm.
but that is very few right now because at the point in time where the game is, there's a problem where the voids are basically, some of the larger ones are circling around some of the galaxies. So you can't fly through there without getting eaten. So nobody wants to go from galaxy A to galaxy B.
Okay.
So right now there's like maybe, I don't know, 250 people in total. I say people, they're aliens from a different galaxy that are here. But they got here pre the void migration, which is basically when they start just eating stuff in a direction. They just happen to be eating around one of the galaxies at the moment.
Okay.
So travel doesn't work.
So a lot of people or a lot of different species are kind of stranded on this planet, essentially.
Well, they're here because they wanted to see what was here. So they can't go home, so they are in that sense stranded, but it's not like they're scrambling to get there either.
Okay.
They're significantly older than anything in Neoon or Sol System or anything that's in this galaxy. Like they're old as shit.
So beyond, okay, so we have that reason that
Yes.
there are species on this planet. You have the shaman. Beyond that, what makes Neon kind of like a central hub for so many other species to be here?
Um, Mostly in the fact that it's central. In the sense that, you know, the Scythians, that's another race, they have their area that they're in and they get to do stuff. But Neoon is like, if they land on Neoon, they can now reach every other single place that they have a major relationship with. So
Okay.
it's quite literally a central system
Okay.
where it allows travel, communication. One of the, it's not it's not like a government system, but it's sort of like a big collection of the races all together saying, okay, we're going to sort our shit in this station that is over Neoon. So, like, the seat of how do we deal with when, you know, one of the planets that we have is attacked?
Hmm.
How do we deal with contact from something that we don't know of
So
that
essentially,
shows up?
the intergalactic UN
Yes,
exists on Neon
above.
above.
It's in
So,
a space station, but yes.
um, and then how big is the space station then?
Um, I mean, imagine the moon is the inside,
Okay. Cool.
so it's significantly big.
Wow.
Um, a lot of the space that you would traverse is like about half the moon because a lot of it is to help accommodate the various species that are on one station.
That makes sense.
Because like there's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus gravity differences and what they breathe and all this extra stuff. So,
Right. Right. And plus it works as an embassy.
yeah,
And so as far as the races you can be, I'm assuming you could be a shaman.
yes,
You can get your own tattoos if you want.
yep,
You could also be one of these species that lost their home planet.
yep.
What other species can you be?
Humans, you can be they're called ELFs, but it's not actually like ELF. It's E.L.F because it's the abbreviation of how they came to be. That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Okay.
You have the Amorians, which are basically more of like an amorphous blob kind of
Well,
species.
let's take it one at a time. I'm
Sure.
fascinated by the fact that after everything we've talked about with all these dimensions, that there are humans. So
Yes.
like there's a dimension that's our dimension.
We're in Dimension 4. The soul system is there.
I mean like us, like you and me, like humans.
Yeah,
We
it's
are
in
okay.
Dimension
Oh,
4.
the soul system. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. So how did those humans get to dimension 3?
You mean 4?
No. Okay.
Humans were made when one of the 576 got on the planet and they made the humans.
So I'm trying to clarify.
Yes.
Neoon exists in the real world dimension that we exist in right now.
Yes. It would be
Okay.
a system that you could go to if you had sufficient tech.
Okay.
And that's what the humans did. The humans initially got into space for mining and trying to expand off planet,
Okay.
basically. Eventually, that led to them going far out enough to find Neoon, find ships, find other races, and eventually it led to them going to Neoon as like a planet regularly.
So does Neoon exist in a galaxy, like a real galaxy?
No, it's not pulled from actual like you can't go in the stars and find it. No,
Okay. Okay.
but it would be in basically in terms of distance like in Andromeda.
Okay. So the galaxy that that Neoon takes place in is in our universe. So it's one of our galaxies. Is
Yeah,
it Andromeda?
it's just basically yeah, it's just Andromeda. The any planets or systems that are like actually there, either aren't or they're like a fake system basically.
Sure.
And Andromeda would still be the name of the galaxy. So when humans travel to it, they're going to Andromeda.
And then what is like the solar system of Neoon? Does it have a sun?
Yeah, so it has a sun, like a normal, similar to our sun, but bigger. It's got two dwarf planets that are basically like one's an ice ball, one's a giant rock. And then it's got two other habitable planets that are complete and done.
And that have different species on them as well that you can like go
Yes,
to.
there's two different natives on both of them that
Okay.
are relatively friendly.
Now, the first project that you're working on, the first game, is it
Yeah.
is it going to be a game, or are you not really sure yet?
Well, the first project that I'm working on currently is in, Unreal Engine 5. Like
Oh,
it's
really?
planned to
Cool.
be a game. Um, I'm hoping because it's just me working on it, and you've already heard the amount of lore
Yeah.
in just a small section to generate enough interest to either be able to hire people to assist
Okay.
or get something that can make hopefully some money so then the game can come out. Because right now it's at like a standstill to a degree.
And the game is does it have actually any star exploration at all, like planet exploration, or does it all just take place on Neoon? This first
So
game.
the first game takes place on Neoon and the planets in that system
Okay.
and two neighboring systems.
Okay. Okay.
So you'll deal with 13 planets.
Okay.
And then there would be, depending on your race, you would be able to explore like your home system as well. So
Mhm.
if you start as a human, you could go see what Earth is at this point.
Really
If you
cool.
started as a different species, you start with their home planet, or at least the closest thing to it in the universe.
So you can actually go to the Soul system.
Yes.
Cool. And is it similar to how it is in real life?
No,
Interesting.
we
Cool.
don't have a Jupiter anymore,
Oh, cool.
and Pluto's been eaten.
All right. Poor
Yeah.
Pluto. Pluto can't catch a break.
No,
Yeah.
no, it can't. It got eaten.
Yeah. All right. Um, how about Uranus? Has that been eaten?
uh, no, but that's now frozen.
Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah.
um, all right. So besides the Earths, besides the humans,
Yes.
what other species you can be? You can be the shaman. What are the shaman actually called?
They're shaman. That's like their
That
race.
is their okay. And then there's the elves that you mentioned.
Yes.
ELF. What does the ELF stand for?
So the E is Illuvian. That's the race that made them or tried to make them. A whole other story there. The L is the liger, which is the species basically adjacent to a tiger that was on the planet where the elves were made. And then the F is Vertigo, and that's the plant species that was causing problems on the planet.
So why are they called ELF? It seems nonsensical.
Because they're a genetic blend of all three.
Really?
And that's
So
just to survive on the planet.
so they were manufactured by another alien race?
Yes, to try and be the solution to the problems that were happening on the planet at the time.
So all right, so I can imagine the liger, I can imagine like a plant. What
Yes.
is this Elfian thing that you said?
Illuvian.
Illuvian.
They're imagine us, but we have like the features of a rhino.
Okay.
So their more existence is primarily around like sand. They live in mountains typically. They'll live in deserts more often. They're more of a desert faring, salt of the earth kind of group.
So what does that mean for an elf? That it's part humanoid rhino, bipedal rhino, part plant,
Yes.
and part liger, which is already like a lion and a tiger, like
Yes,
this
they have
chimera.
yeah, they have features of all of them, but they're also still kind of their own thing to a degree. So the elf primarily has mostly humanoid style features,
Mm-hmm.
but it's got the ears, which are like multi-layered, and eyes of the liger. It's got way stronger bone structure and constitution from the Illuvians, and the plants. It gets extended life to a degree from that.
Okay.
Yes. So
Fun.
the plants they added into the solution because the plants were the problem. They like the planet, without getting too far down a rabbit hole, the planet has a 6 month cycle of everything is like green and great.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next 6 months is the plants overgrow and start to grow into anything and everything. And like they grow through the walls into your people.
Oh wow.
And they take over the entire planet until it's just all plants. And then the 6 month cycle happens again. And the Alluvians settled there in the last month of the 6 month good cycle. And so
Right.
they got hit by this giant
They,
rude awakening
yeah.
of, hey, congratulations, you're a seedbed. So they had to try and scramble to find a solution.
And
And
so
the
it's kind of
liger never got rooted by the plants.
interesting.
So that's why they were using it and their DNA and the plants to try and make something that was compatible or immune to their shenanigans.
Does it does it in any way kind of like destroy the encroaching plant at all? Like, or is it just kind of like symbiotic?
The liger or the elf?
The elf.
The elf basically eats the life of the plant away by just being there.
Interesting.
So the elves are sort of the cause of the system's idea of a vampire to a degree.
Okay.
So the elves went through a lot of like grappling with the whole, by me being in this forest will die over time because I'm here.
So is the elf really problematic then? Like it's creating its own issue, like where the ecosystem of this planet had an equilibrium to it
Yeah.
before the Alluvians showed up. Now they created these elves to kind of better facilitate their own existence there, but they're actually hurting the planet by doing that.
The Alluvians are all gone. They
Oh,
died out before the elves even got out of their chambers when they were still being made.
because of the plant.
Yes.
But okay, so the not counting the Alluvians, are the elves hurting the planet by existing there?
No, they're actually helping the planet because the seeds are an invasive growth that came from like a meteor or something, and they're
Oh,
not supposed
okay.
to be there.
Okay.
They have made the planet into, I mean, if you use Lord of the Rings for a good kind of backdrop of what an elf
Yeah.
city would look like, kind
Mhm.
of thing, not close, but it's on par. That's what they have on the planet now. So it's actually like habitable. People can visit it without
Like
dying.
Rivendell.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's another species you mentioned that's kind of more blobbish, globular. What's that?
Yes. The Amorians.
The Amorians. Tell me about those.
They are. They basically live currently on our Pluto, but in Neoon. So they live on one of the rock balls
Yeah.
floating around in space.
Planetoid.
Yes. Um,
Very cold.
Very cold, and they kind of just eat anything. So like they normally eat rock.
I gotta say, why would somebody want to choose that as the playable race?
Um,
Sell me on it.
yeah, so the fun part about them in the game is they don't have like restrictions on what they can really use or wear sometimes. So like
Hmm.
if you try to put a human into, if the
Hmm.
Illuvians were around, their suit of armor, you would get crushed.
Okay.
It's way too heavy for you.
Okay.
They don't really have a structure to worry about, so they could just be in there and operate it without any real restrictions.
Interesting. That's
Um,
cool.
and if you're like doing a harder difficulty or something you need to eat,
Mm-hmm.
they can go eat a rock. They don't have to go find the nearest busher. They just
Oh.
say, "Oh, this rock looks good. I'm gonna eat that."
Okay. And so actually like life sustaining patterns like needing to eat, needing to sleep, that stuff actually exists within the game, like that's planned to exist in the game, maybe at a
Yes.
harder difficulty. That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm doing. There will be survival elements in all the difficulties, but the survival elements, unless you're playing the difficulty design specifically to make them front seat,
Yeah.
won't really affect you in a way that is like, I don't know, like I'll use Skyrim an example. You can't go north because you just freeze to death if you don't have the proper stuff.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
won't be the case, but you might get like slowed down if you're in a cold area and you're wearing like short sleeve shirt.
Okay. That makes
So
sense.
it won't be an impedance to your fun,
Okay.
but it will be there. And if you eat food, maybe it gives you a buff to do something, or maybe you have more health because you ate. It won't be you didn't eat enough today, so you're dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um Now, another species that you mentioned a while ago are the Scythian. Are those also a playable race?
Yes. The Scythian are okay, so there's a movie that does
Star Wars.
no, something something sort of kind of close to what the idea of this is. I think it's the Jupiter Ascending one. There's like a lizard
Okay.
general guy that's like flapping around. He's got wings, but he's like way too bulky. The Scythians are pretty much like a lean race.
Hmm.
They have 2 to 4 arms normally,
Of lizard people.
and they're basically lizard people. They're if you look at the older ones, leave lizard into more dragon look,
Hmm.
and the younger ones look kind of like a newt would in terms of its like appearance. So they as they age, they get more and more dragon esque looking, but they're bipedal. They use magic.
And like you mentioned, I believe that they had like an outpost. Like, what's their backstory?
The outpost is mostly just expansion and interacting with other species. The Scythians are one of 3 of the races that have been around the longest.
What kind of gameplay would you have with them?
The Scythians have a lot of different like mystical ends of things that they interact with. So you'll have more solving problems of other dimensional things arriving that
Hmm.
shouldn't be there. They'll trap hazardous creatures or dimensional beings, demons, whatever, in like these puzzle cubes, basically.
Okay.
So until the bad thing is gone, the puzzle cube never opens. So they do a lot of artifact
Okay.
making, crafting, often in skilled trades like blacksmithing. So like they could run your local blacksmith shop.
Interesting.
So they
Yeah.
deal a lot with that.
Okay. So I was thinking maybe because of the word Sith, I was thinking that they were kind of like a bad guy, like a negative race that you
No.
could choose from, but no.
Sith the Scythian is I mean, I'll use Pokemon because easy. It's like Scyther.
Okay.
It's not Sith as in Darth Maul.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that does lead to the question of who the raiders of Neoon are.
The Raiders of Neoon are a bug species that is pissed off at a bunch of people, essentially.
Why?
So this bug species lives on planetoids or in planets underneath the crust.
Okay.
So they're interacting with like that underground segment of things, if you would think about it that way. And when people like change the planet or mine the rocks they live in, they're like killing them off.
Mm-hmm.
And so because humans and the various species mine asteroid belts, they don't know that that's
Their home.
things are living in there. So it's that conflict of, oh, well, we didn't know that you lived in these rocks. We had no way of knowing because it doesn't register
So
as
they're
life.
they're on the offense raiding Neoon, but they're really trying to defend their homes.
Yes.
So and then none of them are native to Neoon. Are there
No.
any? Okay.
Well, there's some that live in Neoon, but the species itself
Is not
isn't
native.
native to this galaxy even.
Okay. But are the ones who are living in Neoon symbiotic at that point, like part of society, or are they
Yeah.
also being hurt by?
Nope.
Okay.
The ones that are being hurt primarily are anything that looks like a giant rock that people or aliens would want to mine.
Okay. And can you be them in the game?
You cannot be them in the current planned
Okay.
section of the game, just because it would be
Totally different.
yeah, and it would be hard to like. Their existence isn't exactly an enjoyable thing living in a dark cave,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay. Yeah.
So it would be hard to make it playable in a way that's enjoyable.
Okay. What is the actual core gameplay of this first game?
So the core gameplay is based around like a main quest, but that main quest is you have like the main planet you're on, you have that main quest line that's going on the planet,
Mhm.
which follows like your character's mentor and his journey to find his brother and that whole scenario. And then you have like the open-ended explore your system and gather resources, sort of like Skyrim, where you can like ignore the main quest line for hundreds of hours and go do other little things that are around.
Yeah. So like when you're talking, I'm thinking outside of stuff like the survival things, I'm seeing in my mind a little bit of Starfield in it, like a little bit of like a space exploration
Yeah.
Bethesda game, and then like mixed with maybe like BioWare. Would that be right? Like mixed with like the the politics of maybe
It,
Mass Effect,
yeah. I mean, Mass Effect would probably be one of the better examples of kind of what like the gameplay would look like.
but not so
Um,
much Starfield.
no, because you can actually like build, design, crew. You could live in a spaceship and have content still there that's not just like, oh, you're being attacked. So like the both ends are extensive enough where you could literally play it for hundreds of hours
Mm-hmm.
in a ship or in a cave on the side of a city somewhere. Like there's enough there for it. So what you're doing is primarily doing the quest or kind of whatever you want to do at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The overall like big problem that's going on in the verse outside of things attacking the planet and not having that
Okay.
settled.
So how about now? I'm thinking, is it primarily a third person game or a first person game or
It's dual. You can switch between whichever you prefer.
similar to Skyrim?
Yes.
Okay. So keeping that in mind, is it, would you describe it as maybe cyberpunk in space where it's like story driven, you can pick your race, there's a overarching story that affects whatever, like you don't pick a race in
No, yeah, but I
cyberpunk.
get what you're getting at.
And so you have a different story depending on the how you start, like where you start. And
Yeah, so the starting would be dependent on what race you're picking and where you're starting. That
mhm,
would kind of determine why you're going to the planet.
mhm,
Because like for example, the humans primarily traffic and mining equipment. So the bug race is pretty mad at them because
mhm,
they're doing a lot of the mining that's killing them.
mhm.
Whereas the Scythians are being dispatched for kind of a different reason. Because they have another dimensional creature that's running around that shouldn't be there. But they're all gathering on that one planet. They'll all deal with the bugs and the overall threat that's going on outside of the bugs. So it's you're on kind of their own journey that
So
just interact together on that planet a lot.
okay, okay. Uh, but one key thing that we can deduce is that this is a Western RPG.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. In terms of like the cyberpunk in space,
Mhm.
yes, relatively similar kind of to how that feels.
But Cyberpunk is more of a first person shooter. It's like kind of like an open world immersive sim, and that's
If
not what you're necessarily doing.
no, if you slap cyberpunk together and Skyrim in terms of like
Yeah.
fantasy elements, that's kind of what it would look like.
Yeah.
Where, if you're playing a human, humans have mana, but they're not exactly, proficient in its use. So a lot of their mana is I'm gonna make my gun not overheat, or I'm gonna make my
Okay.
ship fly better. So
Mhm.
their use, they still get all of that cool sci-fi guns and
Mhm.
battleships, but they can also use some of the magic a little bit to affect those. Whereas
Okay.
a Scythian, for example, you're probably casting spells, dashing through people with swords, doing that kind of end.
So mechanically, it's those two games combined in a
Yes.
sense,
Yes.
with some unique elements as well.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, like it's mainly unique.
Yeah.
And then vibe wise, you add healthy dose of Mass Effect. So like if you like the Mass Effect vibe, you'd like the vibe of
Yes.
Raiders.
Yes.
Um, and then going back to lore, humans have mana.
Yes.
How and why? They're connected to the entity in the center of the planet too?
So they're connected to that entity, but they're also connected to the initial explorer from 576 who's still around, not in a planet. So that being is still just kind of floating around. He's basically, if you looked at him, you would assume it was just a big nebula.
Mm-hmm.
Like you in the universe, you cannot get the scale to see him as anything but a nebula, basically.
He's so big.
He's huge. He's like obscenely huge. So any creature that is on a planet without 576 being in it
Mhm.
is connected primarily to him because he partially made some of the planets without like merging to them because stuff from his home world became the planets eventually
Mhm.
that weren't controlled by 576
So were
explorers.
humans from his homeworld originally that he brought to Dimension 3?
No, they were just basically like made as a species to help protect the creature in the Earth. So
Okay.
they basically like every single like the Scythians are the same thing.
Okay.
So they all had like different views of what anatomically would work, what do we think would be good. They don't really have much of an influence on like what the race does as it develops,
Mm,
but they were initially made from that being's mind. Just
okay.
the mana is their connection to the main explorer and the being in the planet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's the being that's in the center of Earth?
That would be a warmongering scientist from 576.
Mm,
So he made, uh, well, they don't really have genders, but they made the people in hopes that they would be able to have like group mentality and defend the planet and become kind of a one thing.
mm,
So he's mostly a scientist, but everything he makes is more tuned to combat or war
okay.
instead of exploration.
Okay. Interesting. So his is the history of Earth in this universe pretty different than the history of Earth that we have.
Some like major things didn't happen, but were replaced by something equally as bad. So, like for example, Hitler never existed,
Okay.
but there was a big war in the period where World War One and Two were going on. Now it was one big war that was happening. So some of that stuff didn't happen at all, but there was still like a bad thing going on in the time period.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we did get to space way earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. When does this take place? Like on Earth, like by Earth years. When does this take
Um,
place?
so the game itself would take place about 115,000 years from now.
Okay.
So future has happened.
Well, awesome.
Yes.
What's another race? What's one more race that you can be? How many races can you be?
Currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 8.
Well, I feel like this is a huge project.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is a big project.
Well, um, tell me about one more race.
Um, we'll do the Enlightened because they're very interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
So the Enlightened are called Enlightened because a lot of the species can't exactly pronounce their words because they have their own language system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly like a vibrational tune based system when they speak. But they're always incredibly intelligent and they're able to interact with things a little bit differently than they would, like we would.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if they wanted to open a door, for example, they could vibrate and make the door open. Like, they vibrate themselves to do that, or they could vibrate themselves to walk through the door.
Okay.
So, they're very much, they're a weird existence. I'll just put it that way. But they're mostly uh, knowledge gatherers, explorers. They will go through any old ruins because there are some old ruins from pre-dimensional shift that are still around.
Mm.
They do a little bit of bioengineering because they have that innate talent.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very, very interesting.
Well, now I'm curious. Ruins from the pre-dimensional shift.
Yes.
So there were living beings that existed before the dimensional shift.
Yes. So, like the shamans are one of those.
Right. That's right.
A good way to kind of explain this is when the explorers originally showed up and started bringing things over,
Mm.
their dimension came increasingly unstable over time.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the planets and creatures and descendants of the planets were made at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, their dimension got to the point of like a critical meltdown kind of deal, and everything shifted up once. So it wasn't an instant, I brought a rock over, suddenly this existence is gone.
It was a process. How long did the process take?
About 2 billion years.
Oh, okay.
So they got a decent chunk of things done.
Okay.
They had time to deal with worms eating them, and how do we combat that problem? How do we isolate this? What do we do?
Plenty of time for evolution and things.
So evolution has occurred. Various other things occurred. But like the shamans, for example, and the dimensional shift, they survived that trip, but an offshoot of them on the same planet wiped out immediately when the dimensional shift happened.
Is there anything beyond the 999 dimensions? And what I mean is like a creator god or intelligent design or like something that started this whole thing, created these dimensions to begin with.
In the lore, yes, but that's a giant ass mystery.
Okay.
Basically.
It's a very distant god.
It's something where if you got into why things are the way they are, it would make complete sense. But unless you have the whole picture, it will never make sense.
But there is a grand plan
to everything.
To everything. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Like what I was imagining is like you mentioned Lord of the Rings, like how I'm not sure if you've read the Silmarillion, but like how the entire like universe of Lord of the Rings was basically sung into existence.
Yes.
And like it's already been written out, even, and now it's just being played out.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to explain in a way without spoiling stuff. Okay. But
would you find more information like in the first game, or is that like for like the 20th game down the line?
A lot of lore mysteries, you will always like find hints and whatnot.
It's part of the world building, the environmental storytelling of the universe.
Some of it, like I'll use an example for the Void Beasts. They have text on planets about them. There's like various outcroppings of we want to hunt them or we worship them, whatever. You'll get text from those different groups. They'll often contradict themselves, but as you get more information, you can build an opinion or a guess where they came from, because they all kind of touch on some of the same things. It's just from different perspectives.
Yeah, they're kind of like unreliable narrators, but they're not. But there's kernels of truth. There's nuggets of truth that you can infer.
But the universe will never, like in the game, give you a definitive, hey, this is what this is where it's from. You'll get speculation, at least in the first game.
Okay, cool. All right. Was there anything else with the races that you really wanted to touch base on that we haven't covered?
Void Beasts are playable.
The Void Beasts are playable? Really?
Yes. So the Void Beasts traditionally are not planet walking capable things. They're like too big.
Right.
But one of the older ones is capable of making like little clones of itself for a limited time, and it's made a humanoid sized one. And so you can play as that and go through daily life and experience as an endlessly hungering thing and grapple with your sense of self.
Do you have the knowledge of the big guy? Or
no, the clones are mostly like I give a direction and it moves. But when you arrive and start, you've eaten something with a sense of self. So now you're starting to become your own thing. And so you can evolve that character into giant warmongering eaten planets thing, or Joe from your next door neighbor.
What kind of motives does a void eater have, or a void beast have, besides just eating things?
Without having like no basis for things, like no, the clones don't have a biological imperative. They just do what the big thing tells them to.
So what's the motive of the big thing?
Well, the motive of the big thing was to see what the different creatures on the planet are and where they go, so it can go and eat them. The little guy, when he arrives, he eats something to gain knowledge of like where he's at and stuff. But this kind of starts contradicting the big guy's initial instructions, because what he ate had a strong sense of self. So he's starting to become his own thing. So the direction of what you're doing and why you want to do it becomes more of an open-ended question, but you do have like a main thing that you're going after.
Why would the Void Beast want to be scouting these things instead of just eating all the planets? Are there things that they don't want to eat?
Yeah, there's some things that they can't eat or will kill them if they eat. There's
like what?
also
Like what?
um they can eat certain types of suns, but if the sun's about to be a black hole, they can't eat that.
Well, for a planet, like what's something that they might find on the planet, like on Neoon, which would make them not want to eat Neoon?
Um the invasive plant species would be one. If they ate that, that would kill them.
Oh, okay.
If there's anything that
And that plant species is on Neoon. It's not just on that other planet where the
no, Neoon is entirely edible. It's just they can't. A lot of them don't want to go to Neoon in the sense that they're not worried about eating the planet as much as they're worried about dealing with the big thing that's like lurking below the space surface. If you would think about it, of
the
Neoon,
chaotic
like it's there.
beast.
The big giant galaxy eating thing is there.
And it
They don't
fights
want to
back.
go get eaten by it.
Okay.
So it's just kind of in the way at the moment.
Okay.
But certain planets have like oceans of acid, for example. That would not do very well unless they've eaten something that has resistance to it. So it's always kind of a coin toss if they just vaguely eat things, because they could run into something they haven't experienced before and just die.
Cool. But then your scout has received autonomy and is beginning to question his role in all things.
So yeah, he's got. It's kind of a quest on: do I want to be good? Do I want to be evil? What am I? Determining that, and also his main sort of quest becomes trying to learn more about what he is and where all the beasts came from, and kind of trying to solve that while he's dealing with, I'm now my own thing. What do I do?
Yeah. And I do have to apologize if we can actually hear what's going on outside.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of noise. Sorry about that. Out of our control.
Yes.
All right. So was there anything that you really wanted to touch base on before we wrap things up?
I mean, we did cover quite a bit, so
yeah,
I think we'll leave it at that for this episode.
Cool. All right. Well, it seems really fascinating. I hope that somehow you're able to put it together and make the game, or even if it's just a book or something, even just the podcast itself is interesting to me.
Yeah. That's the hope, is to get some interest, so maybe we can go somewhere with it.
Yeah.
A little bit more expediently.
Would you want to do an episode where we actually kind of like tell the story of what one of those races, what that gameplay would have actually been? So tell the story of the game from the perspective of one of the races?
Yeah, I mean, we could totally do that. A lot of the races or creeds or religions are fully like lored to like when they started to exist. So yeah, we could do probably 2 podcasts on some of them.
Okay.
For like an hour or 2 and still have more lore to go over.
Interesting.
So
That's
yeah,
cool.
No, that'd be a pretty solid idea for the next one.
I wish you'd make some books.
Those are in the works.
Nice.
Currently, right now.
Cool.
Because there's so much stuff that we could potentially go over without making it like mind-numbingly layers of confusing. I'm primarily doing like the story of a town on Neoon and like things that happen there. Some characters actually like have a history within like that town and the neighboring areas and stuff. So it'll follow some of those characters that are often like more important in history.
Okay.
So I have that currently kind of being worked on.
Okay.
But I'm not necessarily a gifted writer, so
if I mean, I would say you are from what I'm hearing.
No,